When I get to the end of the backswing and start my downswing, how should I start it? Now, for most players, that feeling or what they're trying to achieve is a very strong pulling motion. But is that the right way to go about it? Hi, I'm Peter Knight, and I've created this channel, Peter Knight Golf, to help you play the best golf you possibly can. Today we're going to have a look at what happens at the start of the downswing and maybe different options of how you can start your downswing to make yours even more effective than what it currently is. So if we sort of think from the end of the backswing, we know that there's an order of movement in the downswing. We want the body, the lower body to lead the upper body, to lead the arms, to lead the club. And so the club's the last thing to start the downswing, but bearing in mind from the top of my backswing to impact, it's going to take me somewhere between, or most players, somewhere between 1/4 of a second and 1/3 of a second, so very short space of time. So while we've got this sequence that we want to adhere to, it's all very much overlapped. So I've pretty much got movement going all the time rather than sort of seeing a big movement with my hips first and then my upper body moving and then arms and club. Unless it's viewed at slow motion, it's hard to see what that order is. But most players get to the top of the swing, and then from here, the feeling is of a pulling motion. Now, the issue with pulling motion is that as the club gets, when you start your downswing, a lot of players will start pulling using their back. And so the back will actually get quite a bend in it because of the tension through the muscles in the back. And also the muscles in the chest starting to overwork a little bit. So we finish up with all this tension through back and chest and shoulders. It has a dramatic effect on body stability and whether or not you're able to retain any stability. It affects, as the club's swinging down, where you will actually lose your posture, and the term for that is early extension. And also it can dramatically affect the path of the club. So what can we do instead? Imagine if I had a basketball or something like that, and I want to throw it down to the ground where that ball is. Now, if I have like a pulling motion to start my downswing, when I throw the ball, I'm going to throw it and it's going to land well ahead of the ball there. If instead I have a feel of a gentle throw, so from the top of the swing, there's like this gentle throwing motion with my arms. Because the reality is my arms don't move through much of a range during the golf swing. It looks like they do because my body's tilted forward, but they actually don't move through that much of a range. So from the end of when I get back to here, I've got a slight throwing motion. So from here, watching down the line, that throwing motion works this way. Now, even when I create that throwing motion with a golf club, just to start the movement, so from here, there's this little throwing motion. My body's fairly quiet, and that motion is quite a passive motion. I don't want to make it a sudden motion as I'm starting down. My transition period from the end of the backswing to the start of the downswing should be reasonably neutral. When you're watching male professional golfers, the entire motion is very, very quick, sort of taking around about a second, some under a second. And so, of course, that transition period is a lot faster too. But for the majority of us, we need to take around about 1.2, 1.3 seconds for a swing, sometimes even a little bit slower. It doesn't sound like much, but visually it's very different and feel it's very different. So from the top of the swing, I can have this sense of this little throw, but you see, even as I'm rehearsing that tiny little throw movement, my body's still moving. So it may feel like my arms are actually beginning the downswing motion, but my body will still work the motion. Now, a couple of pointers about this. When I create that motion, my feeling is it's almost like a forearm throw. So I don't want it to be a hands throw, but it feels more like a gentle forearm throw as I'm starting down. So from this view, it's actually helping the club to almost throw on the correct path down to the ball. For those who slice, where the upper body starts the pulling motion and we get that sort of outside in impact, this can be massively beneficial because you can actually direct that little movement throw with the arms so that it feels like it moves inside out. So if I sort of set myself up here with this club, and feel like that little throw is moving slightly to the right of the target. And it's created a draw shape. So when you start your downswing, have some practices. Get the feel from the top of the swing that there's a little bit of a throw with the arms. Then contrast that with the feel of a pull with the body or a pull with the upper body and arms, and you'll quickly see how different the movement is. When you get that small movement with the throw of the arms, you might find that be really, really helpful, particularly if you slice the ball. Give it a go.